Hello everyone, I hope you are well. I am Ajinkya, I am your guide for CISA. So recently I started a new series called as CISA Bites. The purpose of this series is for us to connect. You can reach out to me via LinkedIn, or if you have my number or email, you can reach out to me via email or WhatsApp or any other way, and you can let me know what doubts you have. What I'll do is I'll try to create explanatory videos on those concepts in a very small way. I won't be deep diving in the concepts, or I won't be taking any questions or all. My main purpose is clarification of the doubts and clarification of those concepts. So I don't want to make very huge or very large videos. That is why I am calling it as CISA Bite. Now I had posted this on LinkedIn earlier this week, where this was one of the doubts which someone had. Now the doubt was difference between compliance testing and substantive testing. So let me share my screen. What I have done is I have tackled this specific question in my book which I've authored called as CISA Guide for Techies and Non-Techies. So on the screen you can see the screenshot of the part where I have broken down the difference between compliance testing and substantive testing. I want to explain this concept to you, but let me tell you where this is covered in a that this is covered in a book. So I have covered it specifically here, and as part of mind maps as well, I have covered that one of the testing methods which an auditor can use is called as compliance testing and substantive testing. Now, let me write it down. Okay, so let's say we have two testings for any auditor while doing the audit. First is he has to understand the entity and the environment. While understanding, he has to understand the controls as well. Now, how will an auditor understand the controls? The first point is going through the policies, because policies are generally drafted by the management, which has to be followed by everyone in the organization. So first is the auditor has to uh, you know obtain policies, procedures, and all of that. Based on it, he will get an understanding. Now the auditor has to check whether the controls are working as desired or not, and whether controls are in compliance with the policies or not. So here you can see I have used the word compliance. So compliance testing is also known as test of controls, or practically it is also known as test of one. Now what do we mean by that? First is auditor has to see whether a control complies with the policies or not. Now I don't want to tell you how policies are made and all of that. So there is a policy given by the management. Auditor has to check compliance of the policy. For that, the auditor performs compliance testing, where the sole purpose, again I am repeating for the sake of clarity, is to check whether the controls, compliance of controls, is to be checked in compliance testing. Now, I have also used two more terms, one more term, which is test of one. Now, how will the auditor check compliance of control? What the auditor will do is the auditor will, um, let's take an example of a lever. So the policy mentions, let's assume there is an organization named XYZ, and the policy mandates that the user account, application user account, should be disabled on the last working day. Now this is the mandate of the policy. Now how will auditor test whether the control is in compliance with the policy or not? Auditor will simply ask the auditee or the client to share any one example of the levers process of the account disabling process, where the auditor will ask for disabling date, check whether the account will actually disabled on the last working day or not. So the auditor will, for to test levers control test, the auditor will ask for disabling date and compare it with HR last working day. And if the account is disabled, and what the policy says, policy requires disabling on last working day. Now, auditor will simply check if disabling date was on the last working day or not, and based on that, auditor will then say that the control is in compliance with the policy. So, compliance testing is basically testing of one or test of controls or compliance testing to check whether the control is designed effectively or not. If I have to again summarize it, I will say testing of design. The auditor will check the design of the control, and based on the design, the auditor will then go ahead with other audit procedures. Now, next question is, what is compliance? What is substantive testing? Now, substantive testing means now the auditor has established, in compliance testing, the auditor has established that the control is designed effectively. The control is in compliance with the policy. Now, in substantive testing, the auditor checks whether the control was in operation throughout the year or not. So, if I have to target only one word, we'll say operation of control. Now here what the auditor will do is, auditor will select the population of all HR levers. He will determine the sample size. I don't want to go into what is population, what is sample size and all of that. I'm assuming you know that. So the auditor will determine the sample size, and he will select samples in such a way that they are spread out throughout the year. So let's say the audit period is 1st Jan 2025 till 31st December 2025. The auditor will select samples in such a way that all HR levers from 1st Jan till 31st December have a chance of selection, and he will check whether all those accounts were disabled on the last working day or not. So that is substantive testing. Substantive testing is done to check the operation of the control throughout the audit period. So if I want to summarize again, in compliance, which is called as test of design, one sample, the design is effective or ineffective. And in substantive, it is called as test of operating effectiveness, where population is extracted plus samples selected, spread out the which are spread out throughout the year, and test whether control operated effectively throughout the year or not. So this is the main difference between compliance testing and substantive testing. I hope this was helpful. You can reach out to me via LinkedIn. I have put my LinkedIn address over here, and you can drop whatever doubts you have, and I would be happy to solve those doubts. Thank you.